Sweet Piper Lewis was just 9 months old when she met her imaginary friend Jasper. Jasper would sit by Piper's crib and sing her songs, read her books, tell her stories, and play with her toys. Jasper was a 7-foot tall bunny rabbit. As Piper Lewis started growing up, she would giggle and say, "Jasper!" and point and laugh at him when he was making silly faces at her mama and daddy. Sometimes Jasper would put his hands around her daddy's neck, and Piper would yell, "Hugs! Hugs!" And her dad would always give her a hug and then tell her how cute she was. Jasper thought this was funny, and it was his favorite game. Piper loved Jasper, and no matter where she went, Jasper went with her. When Piper started preschool, Jasper would tell her that he would always protect her, and Piper knew that he would, too. One day, while her class was on the playground, Mrs. Potter told the kids to line up for a special treat. It was Jet Harper's birthday, and his mama had brought cupcakes for the whole class. Stephen Connor took cuts in front of Piper, and when he did, Piper fell on the ground, scuffing her knee and getting her dress dirty. Piper cried, and Mrs. Potter came over and told Stephen to be nice and apologize, but Stephen wouldn't. Mrs. Potter sent Stephen to the principal. The next day, when Stephen came to school, he had 2 black eyes and a broken nose. He said he'd fallen down the stairs at his house, but Piper didn't remember Stephen having stairs at his house. Anyway, Stephen was nice to Piper after that. When Piper was 8 years old, she was at a slumber party. One of the girls there was Inga Swenson. Inga was pretty, but she was very, very bossy. She was always telling Piper what to do and who she could be friends with. Piper didn't like her very much. Piper was always telling Jasper how mad Inga made her. At the slumber party, Piper was swinging on a swing set when Inga came over and started calling Piper names. Then she pushed Piper off the swing. Piper's front tooth was knocked out. When she stood up, she looked at Inga, and Inga was straight off the ground. Jasper was holding her, and Inga was screaming. All the kids started screaming too because Jasper was holding Inga by her braids and they were standing straight out on either side of her head. Then he dropped her, and when he did, Inga ran into the house crying. Piper's mom was called and she was asked to leave. "I don't understand, Mama. Inga broke my tooth. Why am I in trouble?" "Piper, sweetheart, Inga's mama said that you pushed her so hard that she fell down and hurt herself and you pulled her hair." "Well, Mama, I didn't do that. Jasper did." "Piper, there is no such thing as Jasper. You did it." "I did not," said Piper. "Piper Elizabeth, stop lying. Jasper is imaginary." "But Mama," Piper insisted. "No, Piper, that is enough," said Piper's mom, and she seemed pretty mad now. So this became the way of Piper's life. She eventually knew not to tell about Jasper's protection. She knew that her mom and daddy didn't believe her. She would only talk to Jasper when things were quiet and no one could hear them. Jasper was her best friend. Piper loved rabbits, but Jasper was her favorite. He was kind, and he was a good listener, and he also gave good advice. When Piper was 12 years old, there was a boy, Jack, and Jack was always teasing Piper. He would trip her and pull her hair. Jack's friends would make fun of Piper's freckles, and Piper hated him. Piper hated him more than she hated it when her mom told her to clean her plate because there were kids starving in somewhere, and they'd be happy to eat what she'd made, and Piper always thought, well, then let's give it to them. But Jack was the worst. He'd drop his book in class and lean over and whisper, "You're the ugliest girl in the whole world." Jasper was always asking Piper if she needed help with him. He'd listen to Piper crying, and it would make Jasper so mad. Piper knew her mom thought she was too old to have imaginary friends, but Jasper wasn't imaginary. And lately her mom's face turned to concern when Piper would mention him, so she stopped. One night there was a party at a friend's house, and Piper and all the kids were downstairs eating pizza and playing games when someone suggested 7 minutes in heaven. Piper was very nervous, but all the other kids were excited, so she didn't want to seem like a little baby. The bottle turned and turned until it landed on Jack. All the kids oohed, gnawed, and made kissing noises. "Jack and Piper sitting in a tree," they taunted. Piper was scared, but she went into the closet with Jack. Then Jack tried to kiss her, and Piper said no. Then Jack hissed, "Listen, you're not going to embarrass me, Piper Lewis." And he pushed her up against the wall. He grabbed her by her face, and he put his mouth on hers, and Piper wanted to scream. She wriggled around, and he still wouldn't let go. "Jasper!" she screamed in her mind, and just then Jasper grabbed Jack with his claws and ran them across his face and down his chest. Jack started screaming and opened the door. When everyone saw him, they screamed too and huddled into the corners. Jack pointed to Piper. "She cut me." Blood dripped down his face. His shirt was torn open. His chest had a gaping wound. Piper's friend yelled for her dad, and her dad called the police. Piper's mom got to the police station, and Piper was uncontrollably sobbing. She tried to explain to her mom that she'd been attacked and that Jasper had saved her, but her mom would not hear it. Then a man came in. He said he was a doctor, and he asked her to tell him what had happened. He said Piper could trust him. Jasper whispered, "He can't be trusted, Piper. He's an adult." But he seemed very nice. He brought a teddy bear with him and told her that he would believe anything she said. And it would be just between the two of them, and Jasper too, of course. "See, Jasper," she said in her mind, "he believes in you." "No, Piper, I don't think he can." Piper told him anyway, and he seemed to very much believe her. Piper felt so much better afterwards. Then the man left, came back in a few minutes. "Here, Piper," he said, and he had some pills that looked like candy. "Take these. They will make you feel a little sleepy, and then I'm going to take you to the hospital to be checked out. Nothing big, just making sure that Jack didn't hurt you." "Okay," said Piper, "thank you." Jasper looked angry, but Piper assured him that this man was a friend. Then Piper fell asleep. When she woke up, Piper was in a small white room. She was wearing a gown. Her mom was at the end of the bed, and so was the doctor. "Sweetheart," started her mom, "you're going to be staying here for a while." "But why, Mama?" asked Piper. The doctor began talking. "Piper, I know that some kids pretend that they have imaginary friends, but the thing is, they're imaginary. They aren't real. You hurt Jack in that closet, Piper, and you need to be able to admit that." "Wait! No, I didn't hurt him." Piper began to get very upset. So she called out for Jasper, and just as he materialized, Piper was held down and given a shot. She fell asleep. By the time that Piper was released from the hospital, 3 years later, she no longer remembered Jasper. She believed that it had, in fact, been her that had hurt those people. Piper went on to be a normal teenager. Her family moved to a different state. She made new friends. She met the man that she'd marry, and she was living quite happily. One day, when her daughter, Bella, was just 4 years old, she was reading a book and began to giggle. Piper teased her and asked her what she was laughing at, and Bella replied, "Jasper." Piper explained that there was no such thing as imaginary friends, but Bella insisted. Piper found herself to be furious over this issue, but could not pinpoint exactly why. She went to grab Bella's arm, and she was going to put her in her room for arguing, and she'd never done that before. And then she felt a punch in her gut. She doubled over and tried to catch her breath. Then she felt something scratch at her face. It caught the corner of her lip and tore a little bit of her skin. She was confused. She screamed for Bella to run, but she noticed that Bella wasn't moving, but instead she was smiling. "You can stop now, Jasper," she said calmly. "I think Mommy remembers you now." Piper was dripping a little blood onto the carpet, and as she looked at her daughter, she did remember now. And then she knew to call the doctor, because she knew what had to be done with Bella.